Hey you guys, stick around and watch what my first ride looks like back on a 3-year-old stud that's had 4 months off. Alright, welcome back to Becky Amio Horse Training. Now this is a 3-year-old stud that I started last fall. He got approximately 35 rides and now he's had exactly 4 months off. So I've already done all of his groundwork and I've been doing it for a couple of weeks now, getting him back into the swing of things and putting him back to work. And now I'm going to ride him today. So this is the exact setup I do when I get ready to ride again. This is all stuff that I've done to him, and these are all things that I did when I did his first ride when he was first started. So these are all things that he knows. I'm not going to introduce anything new today. Now, I always want to make sure that they're accepting of my lick tub and that they'll stand there for me for stepping in the stirrup multiple times. And then I commit to swinging my leg over, and I do this just as a reminder, hey, this is what it looks like, this is what it feels like when I get on you. I do it a few times, and then I switch and go to the other side. Now, when they're standing there this good like this, I always like to take them a few steps at a little walk, just around and come back. Historically, I have not always had the best of luck with horses that are standing there really good for me to mount, and then you take one step and they blow apart on me. So I always like to double check and have them walk out after they've been standing there, even though I haven't adjusted anything, I haven't cinched up the saddle any tighter or anything. I'll have this guy take a couple of steps forward around this bucket before I completely commit to staying up there on his back. Because a lot of times horses are really good for you to just stand there. But it's once they take that first step, that's when they blow apart. So I always like to give myself the benefit of the doubt and have them walk out. And I'll do that right here with him before I get back on and totally commit to riding him. I always like to touch them a lot, pet their face, make sure they know I'm there. One time I was told by a guy, I don't even want them to know anything happened on their first ride. And for me, I want that horse to know that I was there. I want them to know that they've been rode. I want them to know that they've had an experience. And hopefully I've made that experience really good to the best of my ability. So now I'm going to commit to staying up there. And the very first thing I'm going to do is bend his head around to the left. Now, of course, I've already done all this stuff on the ground, so he knows it's coming. I'm going to bend his head around, reach back and pet him on the butt, pet him on the head. Again, want to make sure he knows I'm there and make sure he's okay with me touching him all over. If you've been following me for any length of time, you guys know that I used to ride horses that wouldn't let me touch them, but I was riding them. So we've kind of overcome some of those obstacles now. So we initially walk off, and the very first thing I like to do is I don't even let them get a full lap around the round pen before I put them immediately into a bend and ask them to stop and down-regulate immediately. So we're going to change direction. So I run my hands up his neck, give him a pre-cue, reach down, pet him, rub him, touch him all over. We gradually build up speed with this technique. Eventually, we'll be doing it at a lope. Now, I'm going to show you it in slow motion so you can see what's going on here. I'm going to put my reins into my left hand, and then I'm going to run my right hand down the rein and bend his head around to my right leg. I'll take my right rein as far out as I can possibly go before I bend back to my thigh. And then I'm going to start petting him all over. The reason we bend is because it takes away the forward momentum on them. The reason we run the hands up the neck is because we're giving them the pre-cue. Now, if these horses didn't have any bend, if they weren't soft in the neck and the head and the face and the poll and the jaw, they wouldn't bend their head around for us, and that would be a pretty good indication that we need to go back to the drawing board, right? This is all a lie detector test to see if he's accepting and willing, and hopefully when we go up to the next speed, or when we're out and say we have a spook or something scares him, I can down-regulate him and fix the situation before it escalates any worse, okay? And the reason for the pre-cue is we don't just want to snatch their head around, okay? We want them to know what's coming. And if we do it in a relaxed state, in a comfortable state, in an accepting state where emotionally and mentally they're okay with what we're doing, they associate this particular maneuver with everything being okay. And that's how we down-regulate them. So if their disposition escalates, if they get worried, if they get anxious, if they get troubled by something, we can down-regulate them and bring them back to neutral, okay? That's what we're looking for. And you have to practice this stuff. You have to go back and double-check and triple-check every other ride or so in the beginning and just make sure that all of those buttons are there so you don't have a wreck, okay? And the reality is we will never be as strong as they are. And as a smaller woman, I will never have the upper body strength to pull or, quote unquote, rip this horse's head around if he decides to take off with me. I've had men try to tell me that my angle must not be right, I'm not pulling around hard enough, or this is how you're doing it wrong. And I just tell them, you know what, they've never been a 5'4", 120-pound female. They don't know what it's like when one of these really strong ones decide they're going to leave the country and run off with you and you have nothing. So we are creating a maneuver with a cue to down-regulate this horse, just like we would put a cue with a flying lead change or put a cue with a backup or put a cue with a rollback, okay? That's exactly what we're doing here. So we're practicing this just like we would practice anything else that we do with a horse. I know it's not exciting, it's not sexy, it's not the best circle or the latest, greatest sliding stop, but it's what's going to keep us safe when we're out on the trail. Okay, this is what I preach right here, is putting my reins in one hand, sliding my hand up his neck to give him that pre-cue, reaching down with that rein, and he's already getting soft, okay? You also need to make sure that you keep those calves locked on him, your heels down. What some folks will want to do when they do this maneuver is allow those legs to swing back, and then you end up putting your heel right in that horse's flank or towards the back of their belly, and that's never a good position to be in either. You end up teeter-tottering right over their head, and you lose your security. So your core has to be really strong when you do this maneuver, or it really helps if you're riding in a balanced ride saddle. So now we've sped his feet up. We're asking for the trot now, but we're still asking for the same maneuver. And if he wasn't getting this at the trot, we'd go back to the walk and ask for it again and make sure that he was still getting it at the walk before we went back up to the trot. But again, we're changing directions. We're speeding up his feet. So we're working on his comprehension, changing directions. And look, he's starting to look for that stop now. He's stopping a whole lot faster. We've added a little bit of speed here, and he's just looking to quit and turn around and change directions for us. So that's exactly what we're looking for when doing this particular technique on them. I want you guys to stick around. We're going to speed up these feet a little bit more on him. Continue to do this maneuver and add some more. Stick around for part 2 of this first ride on a 3-year-old stud that I started last fall, and he's had 4 months off. Thanks for watching. I sure appreciate you guys being here.